All right, Notary Ninja's back. Today we're going to talk about the differences between a notary staffing agency, also that's called a signing service, and a mobile notary or an NSA. Now, the reason that we call our notary agency a notary staffing agency instead of a signing service is because this is industry specific lingo, okay? To the rest of the corporate world and the general public, a notary staffing agency is self-explanatory, okay? This is clear messaging, and signing service is industry lingo. It's not necessarily clear messaging. There's people who don't know what a signing service is. The same for mobile notary, okay? So you may call yourself a notary signing agent or a loan signing agent, made up term, but you are actually a mobile notary service. That is what you are providing. So you want to have clear messaging for across the board, okay? That's just rule one of advertising. But let's talk about the differences between the two, the advantages of one over the other, why some notaries progress to becoming a notary staffing agency, how you can become a notary staffing agency yourself. And so let's talk about how this works. So for starters, to be a mobile notary, well, you need to be a notary, of course, have a commission. You need a car, right? So you're mobile, your stamp, printer, that's about it. So in this space, you have what we would call your average order value, okay? Average order, 75 to 125. Probably your average volume that you can do in a day without, you can push yourself and you can make things happen, but average volume 5 a day, $300 to $500 a day, not too shabby. Notaries that struggle with hitting those numbers and that volume is because they don't have training. Everyone I've talked to that the volume's so low is they just don't have training. They just are missing so many pieces to this puzzle. Basically, they try to Frankenstein together a mobile notary business and they're missing parts to it. So big disadvantage to this business model, there's no leverage. In other words, your time equals your dollars, okay? Time for money. If you don't have training, you're not hitting those numbers, you need Notary Jumpstart, plain and simple. You get Notary Jumpstart 237, literally one day with your average orders pays for it. But so that's that. So let's talk about the notary staffing agency, what we run, or a signing service as we know them to be. Well, you're going to need a database of notaries. You're going to need payment processing. Ideally, you should have some of this over here too. You need a dispatching system, a means of dispatching out to notaries or order tracking. A call center or an 800 number or a virtual assistant, which you can pay about $30 a day for them to run everything. And then you need a client acquisition machine, okay? So client acquisition, probably the hardest part of this equation. Of course, we do that. That is proprietary information, how we do this. Willie Boy Mark is not teaching our proprietary client acquisition. I promise you he's not. So he's probably has notaries that are trying to grow an agency just calling even more people. But never mind that, I digress. So average order value or your margin is 50 to 75. So less than here, because ideally you're giving the notary the spread for doing the work. So there's less. So how you create that margin is by one, slightly overcharging the customer, and of course, slightly underpaying the notary. Now I say slightly, some do this with disparity, and that's, to me, is despicable. We're very transparent with our customers that we are in fact overcharging them, and that they in fact could source a notary on their own cheaper, but most of them choose to use us anyways because they understand the professional suite that's involved. So average order volume, well, for us, the average order volume that we can capture anyways, 10 to 15 calls a day translates to $600 to $1,200 a day. And obviously with assistants doing that can happen that's leverage. So without the time equals money. Instead of time equals money, our scenario is staff equals money, okay? So what's crazy is with this setup is that you can actually do both technically, right? Like I can run this agency and have this going on and have an assistant managing stuff while I simultaneously do local mobile notary stuff and I can have the best of both. Pretty crazy, right? So like, for example, if another agency, and this is where we get equitable pricing, if another agency, like we'll say Comfortable Closings, Calvin, if you're watching, thumbs up. Has a seller package that's right here in my town of Port Orange, $75. I'm gonna go do that in a couple minutes. Yeah, go do it. Make some quick money. It's great, but I can do that while this is still running in the background. But I can only do so many of those a day, and I can do way more of these a day. So, question about this business model is, can you do a one-man agency? Not mobile, you can't, right? Because there's too much time involved in the transaction. Even though they're quick, at 15, 30 minutes, they're quick, there's still time and travel involved. Theoretically, you could do it with remote online notary. You could be like a one-man agency because you would want to have that client acquisition system in place because you aren't limited by space. You are limited by time, but you're not limited by space. So then it becomes, if you have the acquisition in place, it becomes more leveraged than this. Problem with that is that most RON platforms suck. Most of them are essentially out to make money off the notary and don't have clear pricing and tend to overcharge, making it very hard, cuts into the notary's profit margin very difficultly. So that is unfortunate. If you can find one that can play fair, then you could use this system to make a one-man agency with RON. Now, I actually do have a friend who has built his own platform. I'm trying to convince him to white label this and to offer it to notaries at like a very low flat fee up front. If he does, we'll be happy to recommend him and partner with him and get notaries onto his platform, because everyone that I reviewed, from Blue Notary to PandaDoc to you name it, they just suck. Their price sucks, their platform sucks, they just suck, which unfortunately makes that, for me, not a space that I really even want to bother with. But he does, my friend does have a solution to that. It's just whether or not he's going to white label it and offer it to other people. But so here's a glimpse into this. If you wanted to do this type of a business model, you definitely want to do Notary Prosperity Academy, right? $1,200, because one good day pays for it. One good day pays for that. So just some examples and illustrations of why this is a better model. I can go clean my garage, I can go for a drive, I can go to the beach, and this can run in the background at a pretty good clip. Where this, I have to go do those appointments, which is still pretty good. It's a pretty good day, and it's still part-time. But again, if you're not hitting that volume, you need this. If this is something that interests you, you need this. What's interesting about this is that this agency model can apply to other verticals. Absolutely. So you could have any kind of a staffing agency. You could replace the word notary with anything else. You still kind of need this stuff involved, and client acquisition is going to be the hardest part of it. So if that's something you're interested in, book a discovery call with us, or just hit the link and go for it, jump in, dive in. So I just wanted to illustrate staffing agency versus mobile notary. What you have to do as a notary, we tend to frown on this. What you have to understand is they have the leads, okay? They have generated an intricate system involved to develop leads and to place orders, and also to assume the liability of the transaction. So that is where this comes into place. You could, if you were really ambitious in this space and you wanted to be really ambitious in this space, you could get that training so that you could have an abundant amount of volume in your business. That's entirely up to you, but just wanted to do this real quick, put this up there. I hope you guys like it. We did do a previous video on using leverage for your advertising, because that is a big difference between these two as well, is that in this space, most notaries tend to not use leverage advertising, which is why their volume's low, where in this space, agency owners tend to use leveraged client acquisition. But here's the video right here if you want to check that one out. All right, and then we'll see you on the next one. Like, subscribe. Talk to you later.